Toby Young is best known for his book, How to Lose Friends and Alienate People, the tale of his failure to make it big in journalism in the United States. He's now back home and the father of 4, and he's hoping for more success with his latest project. Put off by underperforming secondary schools near where he lives in West London, he is planning to set up what he calls a comprehensive grammar school. He joins me now, along with the state education campaigner Fiona Millar, who's in Westminster. Mr. Young, thank you for being with us. Just explain what the problem is with schools as far as you're concerned and what you're planning on doing about it.
Well, I wouldn't say there's any huge problem. I'm not a critic of state education by any means. There is, in fact, a really good, high-performing secondary school in Acton, where I live, called Twyford. And it embodies all the characteristics of what I'd call a comprehensive grammar. It has setting from year 7, it has strong pastoral care, high expectations of all its students, and it puts the emphasis firmly on academic attainment. The problem is it's a church school, and I want to start a similar school, but for Christians and non-Christians alike.
And the idea is what precisely? That you would have within a comprehensive system a rigidly setted school that would be run by parents, presumably, if you want to set it up.
Well, what we're planning to do at the moment is we're planning to try and set it up under the existing rules. Ed Balls has dropped the requirement that academy sponsors need £2 million, so our group is proposing to sponsor an academy and fund the school through the Department for Children, Schools and Families. It would be parent-run in the sense that we'd comprise the majority of the Board of Governors, but we'd hire professional teachers to staff the school, and in fact I have several pretty high-powered teachers on my steering committee.
And would you be putting up any money yourselves?
Well, our group will certainly try and raise some money. The hardest thing when it comes to setting up a state secondary school is finding a site, a suitable site. The school we want to set up is quite small. It'll only be a 3-form entry school, but we still need to find a site. And even though it's the local authority's responsibility to find us a site if we get the backing of the DCSF, nevertheless, I think we'll probably end up making a contribution and we'll try and raise some money as a group. There are about 250 local parents in my parents' group.
Fiona Millar, this is a planned new state comprehensive school. Is there anything wrong with the idea?
Well, I mean, Toby Young does have a very good state comprehensive school near to where he lives. He doesn't feel it's good enough for his children, but I think at a time...
He said, actually, I think that he didn't like the idea of it being having a religious bias.
Well, I don't know. The original article he wrote about this, named Acton High School, which is a different school, which has just had a very good Ofsted report, and I think at a time when we've got limited... We know there's going to be cuts in public spending on schools. It would be much better for parents to put their energy behind good schools that exist locally and to help to make them better, rather than you take money away from those schools to start other new schools that we may not actually need.
But why not? If he can be successful and it creates choice, what's wrong with that?
What, do we need another school in Acton? Are there enough pupils for another school? Where's the money going to come from to run the school? I mean, I think when Toby Young wrote his original article, he was referring to the Tories' free school policy, which is explicitly based on taking money away from existing schools to create more school places for certain sorts of parents who want them. And there's no mention at all of how these new schools will admit their pupils. And they could have quite a damaging effect on schools that are currently rapidly improving in that area. And I think that would be a negative thing.
I mean, damaging in what way?
Well, if you're taking off the more aspirant and, to put it bluntly, middle-class pupils away from those schools and creating a small sort of niche school for certain types of parents, you leave another school that's deprived of the sort of pupils it needs to do well.
So, Toby, unnecessary and potentially damaging to the existing system?
Well, Fiona's wrong about the lack of a need for a new secondary school in Acton. We know from the shortage of primary school places that over the next 10 years there's going to be a huge demand for an additional secondary school in the area. So I'm not going to be in competition. I'm not prepared to take resources from any of the existing schools. I think the Department for Children, Schools and Families, under the Building Schools for the Future programme, has made provision for expanding supply in Acton and Ealing. So that's not the issue. As far as depriving the local school of motivated middle-class parents and their children, I don't think that's going to happen. The local school is very good, as she says, but it's very much a traditional one-size-fits-all type of comprehensive with mixed attainment classes. And the number of students at the school who get 5 GCSEs of grade C or above, including maths and English, is only 35%. Fiona, I know, is always urging parents to send children to send their children to whatever their local comprehensive is. That's all very well if you live in Camden Town and your local school is Camden School for Girls, which has a GCSE pass rate of 68% and is to all intents and purposes a comprehensive grammar, and is exactly the kind of school I want to start here. I wouldn't be doing this if there was a school like Camden School for Girls in my area. Unfortunately, the only school there is like that is a Church of England school. I just want the same opportunities for my children and the children of the members of my group that Fiona has in Camden Town.
Fiona?
My children don't go to Camden School for Girls, if that's what you're implying. But even if they did, I think the point is that your local school could be turned into a school as good as that if it had the support of parents like you.
I mean, that is the answer. Why go it alone rather than join within a system?
Well, I think the difficulty is that the ethos and curriculum in the local school, because it's a traditional comprehensive, isn't the kind of ethos and curriculum we'd like in our school. I mean, the difference is that the local comprehensive is very good at making sure the least able don't get left behind, less good at ensuring the most able get ahead.
Well, actually,
and I think one of the reasons social mobility, one of the reasons social mobility has collapsed.
I've had a look at the Ofsted report of Acton High School this morning, which was inspected under the new criteria, and it's a very good example of how local schools like that are improving rapidly, and it explicitly says that it does make provision for more able pupils to take, the A and A star students to take their GCSEs early. I think I would advise you to have a look at that report and see what that school is doing. With a brand new building, a lot of money has just been invested in that school to give it the sort of building that you say you want. And there are plenty of ways that parents can affect their local schools by becoming parents and joining the governing body and so on, having an influence on things like the curriculum and whether you want setting or streaming or whatever. I don't think it's necessary to start a new school to do that.
Well, that's certainly one way to do it, but another way to do it is to start another school in the area. And if we start doing things that ends up acting like a magnet on all the local middle-class children, then I'm sure Acton High School would just start duplicating some of the things we're doing to win those children back. And actually, it's a much more direct and effective way.
But Fiona Millar, at root, isn't your position that choice is bad?
No, not at all.
Because it waters down the system which you would like to be universal.
I've got absolutely nothing against choice, but I think choice needs
to
be...
I thought you'd like to close private schools and shut all grammar schools.
Well, I'm certainly against grammar schools. I don't think you can close private schools, but I think private schools do damage the system for all children. And the idea of having small...
That is cutting down choice then, isn't it?
Sorry?
That is cutting down choice one way or another. If you're against grammar schools and you don't like private schools.
Grammar schools are patently anti-choice because it's the grammar school that's doing the choosing, not the parents. But I do think that we have to look at, if we're spending public money on an education system, we have to make it fair to all pupils. Now, if you put public funds into setting up a small sort of niche school which is aimed at certain kinds of middle-class parents, that could have a damaging effect on other schools in the neighbourhood, and that isn't good for all children. And that's that is my central point. We have to create a system that's fair to everybody, not just to a few.
I mean, Toby, is your steering committee like-minded middle-class parrot steppers?
No, certainly not.
And what will the admissions be at your school? What will the admissions be at your school?
We'll be bound by the same admissions code that all academies are bound by. So even if we wanted to make it an exclusively middle-class school, we couldn't, and we certainly don't want to do that. I think, Fiona, I don't see why you're not more supportive, because if you think about it, if groups like mine are able to start schools that middle-class parents feel comfortable with and provide the kind of education that middle-class parents want, then you're going to get more middle-class parents opting into the system. And because you obviously won't be able to just exclusively educate middle-class children at these schools, you'll effectively have the kind of genuine comprehensive schools you want. I mean, if you look at this street, most people on this street either send their children to the local C of E school or they opt out completely and send their children to private schools. If people like me are allowed to set up schools that middle-class parents are going to be comfortable with, they'll opt back in. We'll have more middle-class people in the system, and they'll be more evenly spread instead of clustered around schools like Camden School for Girls.
Okay, there we will have to leave it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
This